Hi, everyone, and welcome to StudioJake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today on my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture, from anime to novels to film to television, and so much more. Be sure to like this video, leave me a comment, share it out into the interwebs, and I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscriptions. I am over 800, so any and all subscriptions are helpful. Thank you so much. All right, diving into the topic. So, as Paramount continues to utilize Alex Kurtzman for whatever reason to expand the Star Trek universe, he's done a terrible, no good, very bad job at Star Trek. In fact, I've refused to watch even stuff that people say is good, like the later half of Strange New Worlds or Picard season 3. I'm hearing that it's actually pretty good. It was even somewhere even saying it was better than some of the Star Wars stuff that was coming out. Might be factual, but Alex Kurtzman has done such a terrible job of maintaining the Star Trek universe that I don't care. And he's ruined me for Star Trek with way too much, not knowing that Romulans drink wet ale, not whiskey, and making Captain Picard a robot, you know, and having him lectured to by Seven of Nine, who doesn't need to be lecturing anyone about anything, making Seven of Nine a captain randomly when she wasn't even a member of Starfleet. It doesn't make sense, the decisions that they made. And another series has gotten caught in the crossfire, and that is Star Trek Prodigy. So, Star Trek Prodigy was an animated show about a group of aliens who are in the Delta Quadrant, and they kind of stumble on a starship, the USS Protostar, I think is what it was called, and they decide to repair the ship and use it to head to the Alpha Quadrant. And then they have an emergency protocol hologram that has the likeness of Captain Janeway, played by Kate Mulgrew in Star Trek Voyager. Now, it's so interesting to me because I'm not looking at Star Trek through rose-colored glasses. Several of the OG, or as we like to call it, the TOS, the original series. A few of those films were lackluster and not very good. Star Trek Next Generation definitely had a few flaws. Deep Space Nine was woke before woke was a thing. In some places, not the whole series, but definitely they pushed sort of that politically correct agenda. Voyager relied too much on Seven of Nine as a character, especially in the later seasons when it should have focused more on the crew of the Voyager trying to survive. That kind of stuff. Enterprise. They haphazardly solved a time Cold War that story arc. They kind of haphazardly solved that. We never learned who the villain of that was. That sort of thing. But for all intents and purposes, Star Trek during Gene Roddenberry's lifetime, the creator of Star Trek, and then the people who took over right after him, they still had a fondness and a love for the lore. And you can just tell that the new people who have taken over Star Trek have no love for Star Trek. They don't like it. In fact, they think they should change it. It shouldn't be that humanity has evolved past our primordial, or primal. Sorry, not primordial. I don't know what that means. Primal instincts were better. No, we're back to Starfleet is secretly doing all these no good, very bad things in the backgrounds. In Deep Space Nine and other stuff, it was always when war was coming around that Starfleet would make compromises, but it was always done with a sense of regret. It was never done where it's like, oh yeah, like it is in Star Trek Discovery or Strange New Worlds or Picard. It's or Lower Decks. It was never. It was always done with, I wish we hadn't have done this. We need to get back to being our enlightened selves. Gene Roddenberry always had a brighter future for humanity, and the Kurtzman era Trek has took that away, and now Star Trek Prodigy kind of got caught up in that. It got canceled, and you know what? I'm not really seeing people being upset about it. I mean, a few people who who liked the character of Captain Janeway, including myself. I thought Captain Janeway was an excellent character, and Kate Mulgrew played her brilliantly. You know, they didn't try to make Captain Janeway a man. She was still a woman. She was a strong female character who could get rough with the men, but also had her feminine side. She was a good leader, a strong leader. She did make, in my opinion, she did make some bad decisions in the course of the series, but again, it was Voyager still had that, our enlightened part of us is going to guide us home, right? We're going to survive being lost, 70,000 light years, in deep space. And, with that sort of thing, I was upset when Star Trek Voyager was canceled and I cheered at the finale. I didn't cheer with the Enterprise finale, but that's a whole other thing. But with Prodigy, no one's really upset about it. I mean, there's a few, there's a handful of the show's fans on Twitter who are, kind of upset that it didn't get canceled, but I'm not seeing like the Star Trek community as the Trekker community as a whole being upset by it. And it just goes to show how far that they have damaged the brand. I mean, Nickelodeon, which I know is owned by Paramount, which owns Star Trek, but Nickelodeon wasn't really the right place to put a Star Trek cartoon. I'm not even sure that, and I know that there was an old Star Trek animated series, but again, I'm just saying I don't think Star Trek should be animated. It's like I always say about these live action remakes of anime. They're not really made to be live action. Same with, Disney live action remakes of Disney films. They're not really made to be live action. Star Trek isn't really made to be animated. Now, it's not saying someone who's a competent writer, a competent director, a competent producer could pull it off, but it's just made to be something for a more mature viewer. And but also where you could watch it and just enjoy it for it being a massive wave in pop culture and science fiction. And that's now lost. We're gonna have everything has to be a metaphor for a politically correct movement. It can't just be a continuation of the lore that Gene Roddenberry created. And hopefully that I hope that this will be a lesson to Paramount, to CBS, that they need to get Star Trek back on track, because the fan base is shrinking daily, basically hourly. I remember when the last time they did their online Star Trek celebration where they were live streaming it, some of the videos, the panels were barely getting any views. It was embarrassing. Now, granted, I'm not really one to talk. I'm lucky if my videos breach a certain a certain percentage, but I'm not a massive corporation that has control over an IP like Paramount is. And I really hope Star Trek gets back on track. It was one of the first things I got involved in as a pop culture person. Being a kid in the 90s, I grew up with Captain Picard, and I came for Captain Picard, I stayed for Captain Archer, and it's such a shame that as Star Trek continues down this road, this pathway, this warp speed, to having to make every single thing about our modern day politics, that we can't just shut off our brains and watch a few Starfleet officers defeat an alien pirate who has gotten control of some sort of weapon and is using it. That's I would like to go back to those kinds of days, and hopefully with the cancellation of Star Trek Prodigy, like I said, Paramount will wake up. They'll get some people who actually care about Roddenberry and his vision, and start expanding the Star Trek universe in a good and proper way. Now, once again, I'm not holding my breath, because these corporate overlords, they're stubborn for whatever reason. They just are hooked on these likes and these clicks that they get from social media weirdos who yell "Slay Queen" every time a female character comes on the screen. And they need to learn that, as Eric July says, you can't eat likes. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to Studio Jake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.